Hey everybody, welcome to the Boat Dealer Profits Podcast. I am your host, Matt Selhorst, the creator of the Splash System, where we're committed to helping you sell more boats, make more money, and have more fun. I have a super special guest today. He is heavily involved in the marine industry, technology, marketing. This guy does it all. I'll give you his bio here first. Harry Giovanni from ThreeClix and Red Oak Marketing Group. He's our guest today. He's the president and principal. He was previously the CTO, the Chief Technology Officer at Red Oak, and is currently involved in all aspects of the company's strategic direction and sales effort. Harry spent over 4 years in the U.S. Air Force working on B-52 technology and has more than 21 years of experience in product and technology development. From 1995 to 2000, Harry co-founded a technology and print media agency where his primary responsibilities included sales support and all web-related project management. So, Harry, I really appreciate you taking some time to join us here, even though your schedule kind of has you stuck in the car right now, so don't worry about those horn noises that you hear.
I appreciate that, Matt. Yeah, we're up here in the Midwest. We're slashing through several inches of snow as well, so I pulled over just to make it safe. And
there you go. I didn't even think about that suggestion. Good thinking. Well, thanks for joining us here today.
Oh, no problem. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, so tell everybody a little about, because you guys, you're heavily technology focused, but you have a really strong grasp of the marketing principles is the way I look at it. Tell everybody about Red Oak, ThreeClix. There's probably a lot of people that are using that and everything else you have going on over there.
Sure. Well, just a little background. I did come out of the marine industry. My father owned a dealership, and I grew up in it, and then ventured off to the Air Force and through college, and really missed it. In the mid '90s, when I was working for an agency, and it was actually a principal at the agency. I got into web development. I was forced into it, actually. I don't remember having a choice anyway, but and I got into basically database development, coupled with web technologies, and developed on the side a project called BoatDoctor.com, and BoatDoctor.com was sort of your end user do-it-yourselfer place to go if you had any questions on boat repair. And began to develop a network of technicians that could answer questions, and it was a fee-based system. In having done that, I somehow ended up back into a partnership in a repair facility and met my business partner, John Turkla. Through conversation with him, he came out of call centers, United Airlines, American Express, and was seeing all the faults there, and I was seeing from my perspective where we were struggling in the marine industry from a communication standpoint, and we merged and started to develop our philosophy around how we could better communicate not only from the dealer level to the end user consumer, but also from the manufacturer to the dealer and the dealer to the manufacturer. And born out of that was our Red Oak system. And really, we really focus more on what we call a push metaphor, in that instead of constantly trying to pull people, into a system and force them to take certain steps, we push information out consistently and constantly, that's relevant and timely, both to the consumer, to the dealer, and to the manufacturer.
Yeah, I think, and that's one of the things that really gravitated. We in conversations and just researching your stuff is relevant and timely. It's not communicating just because hey, it's time to send another email or another message. It's hey, this stuff is very relevant to the consumer. And something that they have interest in. Talk about kind of your philosophy there.
Sure. Well, I don't want to, I want to make sure that we understand that, yes, we do still send some email communication, bulk email communication, at times, boat shows, these kinds of things. But really where our focus is monitoring. Let's take, for example, in the Red Oak system, we're consistently monitoring what an end user is doing with certain communications, whether they're clicking links or they're responding back to the dealer. We're looking at that information all the time, and based on those actions, we're then making decisions through our technology what to send them next, and in some cases, how to handle communication back to the dealer salesperson stating, Joe customer just took these 5 actions. Based on our experience, this is probably a good time to pick up the phone and call Joe. So we're monitoring actions and reactions to communications constantly, just to make sure that we're not dropping the ball, A, on any potential opportunities, and B, that the consumer always feels like the communication to them is relevant. It's not just this canned response going back to them, but we're dropping relevant information in, and then when they're looking like they're ready, making sure that a salesperson is on the phone with them in a timely manner.
Now, are you using some kind of a scorecard system there, where based on the amount of times they click on links or the number of links they click in a amount of time? How does that work?
Absolutely, that's part of it. We've developed our system. We've developed the nurture marketing, we call it, part of our system to allow us to, based on certain links, whatever those links may be, put a score against that link. Some of them would require somebody to click, like you said, 3 times. Some of them are once. Okay, so in a particular campaign, we may have different actions based on individual links. Okay, we also have the ability to monitor and respond to email responses coming back through our system. So email goes out to the consumer replies to that email. We can read that email, and based on certain trigger words or phrases, we can then respond accordingly. And a lot of times that comes down to monitoring for customers that may need some extra touch. They're dissatisfied or they're having a problem. We can put the manufacturer's rep or the manufacturer's call center or the dealer on the phone with them immediately.
Yeah, you're always. It sounds like you're always looking to balance the automation efficiencies with the need for relevant information and at times personal touch, and always making sure the right person is involved.
Correct. Our number one goal is always to get a human on the phone or face to face with the individual.
Yeah, that's ultimately where the boat's going to get sold. That major unit has to be sold by an individual sitting in the dealership on the front lines. But there's a lot of kind of helping that you can do to get them to that point.
Correct. We've always stated that our systems do not sell boats.
Yep.
Or RVs or motorcycles or whatever it may be. That's a relationship and a face-to-face that accomplishes that. What we're doing is making sure that the consumer and the dealer don't feel neglected, for lack of better words.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Now, you have another concept that I discovered, the 21st century consumer. Kind of talk about that. Sounds like a mindset thing from what my research has shown. Talk a little bit about that and how you think that applies to the boating industry right now.
And I think since we wrote that and started doing a white paper on that, our concept there has only been strengthened.
Yep.
What we're finding, especially with a younger generation, and me being in technology, I'm not younger, but I do fall into the same category. My initial research on any product that I buy, I like it to be personal, my own time, one-on-one. I want to do this at 10:30 or 11:30 at night when I have the time to do it. I don't necessarily want to be talking to a salesperson immediately. I find myself wanting to be educated on the product before I talk to somebody. We keep that in mind, especially when we're developing and deploying campaigns for our clients, that there is a large sector of people who may submit a lead, for example, looking for a brochure, that aren't necessarily looking to have somebody call them immediately. Okay?
Yep.
So we'll put a process in place that allows us to identify certain triggers to let the salesperson know that, okay, this person is ready, without submitting a brochure. I found, especially in my experience in the insurance market, where if you're going to look for insurance and you put a request in, you can pretty much guarantee 15 phone calls in the next 2 hours.
Right.
That's highly detrimental to the sales process and can even drive people away. So
yeah, I think it's interesting that you have to understand the difference from I call it the educational spectrum of the boat buyer, but where they are. If you're requesting a brochure, that's different than asking a specific question on a specific piece of inventory. And on the front lines of a salesperson, you have to understand that the brochure person is probably earlier in the process and doesn't want to be jumped on. But the guy asking about a piece of inventory kind of does expect a little bit quicker response.
Absolutely. Sure. So, like many systems, we will put your initial canned response out there. It just doesn't necessarily include, unless our client dictates it, an immediate notification to a salesperson to make a phone call. We also have, included now SMS technologies, things like that, and allow the salespeople to communicate back and forth with the prospect over text messaging, instead of making a phone call, instead of through email, because we're finding that many of the consumers would prefer that.
Yep.
And again, it's one of those things that I know I certainly prefer.
Yeah, it's amazing how quickly technology is changing and communication habits are changing.
Sure.
Now, is that something that ThreeClix has integrated within it, or is that on the Red Oak side of things?
Nope, it's integrated both in ThreeClix and Red Oak.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things I love, I have several clients that use ThreeClix, is the ability to set up the automation and the email communication. Talk about some of the best practices on the dealer side for kind of getting the most out of the technology that you do provide.
Sure. Well, in the past year, we have upgraded the technology on the ThreeClix side considerably to more mirror what we were developing on the Red Oak side. We've developed the ability to build an entire process out in ThreeClix. So and take that situation by situation where not only can we develop an immediate response function for a lead coming in on a particular piece of inventory, but we can also build out a whole nurture marketing campaign for completed service triggers. Things like customer comes in, has their boat serviced, the service department identifies that service has been complete. A series of emails will start, and then a phone call can be generated, sometime 30 days down the road from the sales or from the service manager. So we're always making sure that without being intrusive, we are staying on top of this customer and making sure that they understand that we, truly care about their business.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to being relevant. If that automation is set up and you're really thinking about where are they at this stage when I'm communicating with them, that communication does come off as a added value,
Correct.
Versus just a mass communication. What are some of the other don't say innovative, but the pieces of the puzzle that go unused or that don't get optimized for some of your dealers that are using and have access to systems like that?
Well, I think we're just talking about one of them. Typically when a new customer, new dealer comes on to ThreeClix, we don't, as my mother always said, we don't try to eat this elephant in all one bite, right? we take this nice and slow, and we start to develop a process with them, where we see at times sort of a roadblock is we're in the process of developing we're in the middle of developing this process out, and all of a sudden it halts. We're really not taking and expanding on the capabilities of the system because, let's face it, there's not a lot of time at the dealership to do this.
Right.
So in the past, I'm going to say the past 3 or 4 months, we've been taking more initiative on our side to make suggestions to the dealer and then implementing them if the dealer says, yes, I want to do that. So that's one of the places that, I see that not only the dealer, but we could certainly do a better job. And then the second place is in actually developing a nurture process around literature requests and show leads, where we still always face the old, if they're not low-hanging fruit and they're not in my face, I don't necessarily want to talk to them. We have the capability to, in both systems, go in and develop a process around show leads, for example, that will continue to communicate with that prospect, throughout a year or 2 years even, to make sure that, our brand is at the top of their mind when they do finally decide they can, they're ready to pull the trigger on buying a boat or a deer. And so.
Yeah, because it's not especially some of the earlier leads, the brochure leads, the people that are just kind of checking things out in their lazy boy at 10 o'clock at night. It may be a year, 2 years, even 4 years down the line before they're ready, but you can really position yourself well. And I think ThreeClix especially has that capabilities when you put the time in to plan it out.
In the research that we've done is that, I remember in the past, in the old days when, I continued for years to work the Chicago Boat Show with a friend who owns a dealership. And, if they weren't indicating strongly that they were ready to buy in the next, 2 months or so, I'm guilty of it. I would, sort of put those index cards away and never look at them again.
Yep.
But what we're finding now is that, a great number of those that just came in sort of, and I put this in quotes, tire kicking, actually will buy down the road, and they will buy from that dealership if that dealership has done a good job of communicating over the course of time.
Yeah, because you can certainly add value in how to shop for a boat. You can add value by promoting the boating lifestyle in a number of ways, even if they're not quite ready. That's interesting. I didn't realize that you had a family history in the marine business and that you've been nose to nose, toes to toe selling. That's fantastic. I think that's why you guys are so on the money on some of your concepts here.
Well, I do, and I still at times have a crazy idea of opening up a dealership, and then my wife shoots it down. So
she says, "Not right now, honey. We're gonna
no, not right now."
Well, you guys have plenty of things going on over there. I mean, you guys, the technology you're building is fantastic, and always looking at that next step, integrating SMS, the push technology that we talked about before we came on the line. What are some of the, I'll call them the best things that you've seen, whether from the manufacturer side, from the dealership side, that you think more people could take advantage of or more people should do in their boat business? Well, if anything comes to mind.
Yeah, and it does. The entire premise of ThreeClix, when we sat down to develop this, we actually tried to force fit dealership lead management into our Red Oak system, and rapidly found that, just because it's such a different animal that it really didn't work. Okay, so we sat down with several dealers, actually about 10 of them, and said, what would you like to see in a dealership lead management system before we ever started developing anything on ThreeClix. And what we came out with from those meetings was, this system needs to be easy to use, okay?
Yep.
We're not necessarily looking for a lot of bells and whistles. We're looking for something that, 100% of the salespeople can and want to use. We know we have that 20% power users that want more and more and more. We appreciate them because a lot of those guys have driven innovation on, in both sides of our business. But there is the 80% who just say, I just want to get leads and make phone calls. So it's got to be easy to use. It's got to be lightweight, fast, easy. We don't want to be sitting and waiting for queries to run and things like that. And then the third thing was, keep me out of the system as often as possible. So we've developed things in both systems where, we've loosely, and I say loosely integrated Outlook or other email clients, Gmail, etc., into our systems. It's not a direct integration with them, but we've developed a methodology around how you can come into the system, you can reply to a lead, then when that prospect responds, it routes back through the system, it gets tracked, but it also routes back down to the salesperson's regular email client, be it Outlook, be it Gmail, be it Yahoo, whatever it is. And then they can just continue that communication back and forth without having to log into a system, find the customer, respond, etc. So that's really where where we started. Now today, what we're finding is that we have several dealers who are extracting data from our system and building out what we're going to call it now and is a coaching tool. Okay, so they're taking data into Excel and they're manipulating that data and they're building these charts and things like that to help truly not big brother their salespeople, but actually coach their salespeople into better results. So we are now in the process of taking a lot of those same ideas and developing it into our ThreeClix system. So 24/7, 365, a salesperson, a sales manager, a dealership owner has access to these tools to go in and say, okay, so, we see, Joe sales guy, again, he's got a drop in sales. What is he doing in the past? What is he doing now? What can we do better to help improve this situation?
So almost like a dashboard of sorts?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
So you can easily see some key metrics. Are there any key metrics that you see that is helpful to track, or anything along those lines that you found to be produce better results for dealers?
And this has remained consistent since I got into this business in 1990. It's response time. It continues to come down to response time. When somebody is ready, he or she who gets to that person first always wins. We have the ability to look into our system and see across multiple dealerships, somebody who's coming in to say Boat Trader and looking at multiple product, the majority of the time, the first dealer that responds to that lead coming in is the dealer who ends up with that sale. So I think that's still pretty powerful. We don't want to, I always use the analogy, if somebody walked into your dealership and stood at the front door and you let them stand there for 30 minutes, they're probably not going to be a good prospect.
Yeah,
right?
Not a great start for sure.
Well, those same expectations, we're seeing through, with web leads now. People are becoming less and willing to wait long periods of time just because they get a message that says, we'll communicate with you in 24 hours. No, they're looking for that instant gratification. We have a story where one of our dealership people was sitting home it was 10:30 at night on a Sunday, and a lead came in, and he said, well, they just submitted it, they have to be awake. He made a phone call, and the next morning the guy was in the dealership and they sold the boat.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, so I think that is still to us a key. The other one is how do we treat these customers who are not yet ready to buy? Are we throwing them into the trash can and waiting for them to come back to us, or are we continuing to nurture and develop a relationship with them until they're ready? And when they're ready, we don't have to go through a monumental effort of building a relationship. We've already begun that process.
Yeah, and I call that in my splash system the 24/7 selling machine. That's, they could be in there a day or 2 days, or they could be in there for 4 years. But
sure.
You do yourself a huge service by continuing with, like you said, relevant communication.
Right.
That's key. Well, I want to go back to your 10:30 at night person. It always just amazes me that people are always looking for the technology answer and the technology answer. But what got that sale was he saw the opportunity and he just went old-fashioned, picked up the phone and called
right.
and said, "Hey, why don't you come in tomorrow and check the boat out?" Sometimes it really is that. Hey, just pick up the phone, and that can do a world of good for you. And but the tools help you do that.
Sure, and the tool will let him know whether this guy was looking for a brochure, a little piece of information, or was he actually asking some good, serious, qualifying questions. And he made that decision and made that phone call, and it worked out for him.
Yep, that's fantastic. And the investment in a CRM like ThreeClix is, that one sale probably paid for ThreeClix for a couple of years, I would imagine.
I would think so.
I don't know what the vote was, but yeah, that's right. Just having that one simple tool that has a lot of other benefits, but it could pay for themselves very, very quickly.
Sure.
So
we try to look at, if you don't have a CRM system, whether it's ThreeClix or any other system on the market, even a home made system, what are you losing? I know in my sales career that there are a lot of sales that I didn't get because of just not having time to be organized enough to do the things that technology can do for me.
Yeah, it's so easy for things to fall through the crack when you're working with sticky notes and note cards and scratch pads.
Mm-hmm.
So
absolutely.
That's great. What are some other, because I know you guys are involved in a whole gamut of activity in the industry. What are some other interesting or innovative things or surprisingly simple things that have been effective that you all have come across when you work with some big name manufacturers and some dealers?
We've done some work with some of our boat manufacturers, specifically around shows, where we're developing processes that people can come into shows. We have kiosks, we have QR readers, things like that, and where we can immediately develop a communication with that prospect before they even leave the show. Inviting them back, back to the booth, whatever it may be. So they're coming in, they're spending time at the show. They've logged in one way, shape, or form, and typically that's because the boat salesperson is just putting basic information in: first name, last name, email address, telephone, what they're looking for. And we'll build those little screens out for them. And then, they'll leave the booth and 10 minutes later, they're getting a text message or they're getting an email, thanking them for coming in. It just seems to mean a world of difference to them. Now, from an innovation standpoint, we have been finding more and more that tracking prospects within the OEM website or the dealership website and truly understanding what they're looking at, when they're looking at it, is allowing us to develop more personalized communication methods for each individual consumer. This kind of stuff is exciting to me because we already know that Google's tracking everything we do.
Right.
I think most of us are becoming more comfortable with that. And so we're sort of adopting some of these same processes in the websites, and not for looking for the guy who, he's back on the website, let's call him, but more looking at, what is this person doing on the website? How can we better communicate with this customer based on what they're doing, what their actions are, what their needs are?
Do you think that will lead you to, we see a pattern of, we'll call it engagement, or a pattern of research that would indicate this is more likely a now buyer versus a researcher? Is that kind of where you see that going? Because that's
Absolutely.
very interesting.
Yep, absolutely. And again, just as, buyer, just as important as the guy who isn't a now buyer, but, will be a buyer at some point in time.
Yeah, because he's looking for different information, for sure.
That's correct.
Very interesting.
How are we going to feed it to him? That's, and in time, based on what we are able to garner over a series of communications about that customer, we can make some determinations about how we're going to communicate and what they like. Would they prefer text messages, and what kind of information are we going to send to them?
Yeah, so that on the manufacturer level, how complex does that get for you guys as you're building those things out?
It can get extremely complex.
Okay.
Yeah. Again, it's not something that we start off with, with a huge process. We start off simple. People are coming in. We have some small snippets of code that are telling lead management that this person is back in and here's where they went. Okay. Because of the nature of our systems, where and most systems are this way today, but not all. We have what we call a one-to-many relationship between a contact in our system and leads. So, we have one contact, a person, and that person may be looking at 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different things: service,
sure,
sales, parts. So we're getting a much, better picture of who that customer is. So we can do simple things at first, like customer came in and, looked at the parts page or whatever it is, and we can trigger an email out to them in a couple hours asking them if there's anything we can do for them. Real simple stuff. But we can also start to look at this customer and say, this is a guy who's been coming into the system or to the website once every week on a Saturday night consistently, and all of a sudden over the past 3 days he's been in there 10 times.
Yep.
Okay. Pretty good indicator that something's going on there. Let's get a salesperson on the phone with him.
Yep.
And we can do that at the OEM level as well, where we're identifying this. We know who that customer is tied to in the system from a dealership level, and even to a salesperson level. We can trigger out an email or an SMS message to the salesperson to say, this person's been in, they've looked at this particular unit 3, 4, or these 5 units 3 or 4 or 5 times in the past 3 days. Highly recommended you call them.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you said. Start simple, and I think for the dealers that are listening out there is always remember it's not you have to. I think a lot of people get overwhelmed by doing things like this because they think they have to build the whole mousetrap when you can just build the first 2 steps and get that going, get some good learnings, and then over time continue to build it out. And it sounds like that's exactly what you do, somebody that's highly technical, highly skilled at marketing, and you still take that approach.
Absolutely. I can't imagine trying to implement everything at once. It just wouldn't work for various reasons. Timing, trying to coordinate technology groups to get these things done, and then just grasping what are we doing? Why are we doing it? Works far better if we take this in small steps, get a handle on it, take the next step, get a handle on it. It allows the entire team at the dealership to really understand what the overall goal is to putting a process like this in place.
Yeah, and the learnings you get from that stage 1 impacts the value of what you create in stage 5. There's
right.
there's certain things that that often come up. I find when I'm doing something similar is oh, that's interesting. Let's we need to pay attention to that as you get to the next steps. Well,
and
that's
we don't
oh,
claim to know everything, and we also have recognized that this thing is changing rapidly. With technology, consumer behaviors change, and that's happening very quickly. So what we're doing today, we may be tweaking down the road within a month or 2 months because consumer behaviors. Social media is rapidly changing the behavior of all of us. So, we need to be on top of that as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. Do you have any thoughts? This came out as we're recording this a couple weeks ago on the Facebook algorithm change. Does that, in your world, the way you look at marketing, does that have any impact on you guys, or any thoughts about that?
I don't see it impacting us tremendously. We to date have really done very little work with integration with Facebook, other than pushing leads over into the system. We've been finding it pretty difficult to garner any really good information to help us make decisions. So once they come into our systems, then we'll put a process in place to try to understand the consumer and what they're looking for. But no, I haven't yet seen a major impact on our business.
Yeah, I wrote my boating industry article about that. That should be coming out. I think it's in March. And that was kind of my thoughts too, is if you own the platform, if you own the media that communicates with them and you use that as just an add-on, it should have minimal impact on you. Versus, if you build everything on social media, you can get yourself in a world of trouble when changes like that come down the pipe. Well, hey, Harry, I appreciate your time and the level of knowledge, your level of understanding of technology, and getting the most efficiency while still understanding that the message is the key. What other kind of last thoughts do you have? Anything I should have asked you that I didn't, that you'd like to kind of end on?
Well, I don't think you haven't asked me anything. My thoughts are that, as I was just saying, that, this whole marketing process it's certainly changed. It's a whole world away from when I started in the early 90s. And I'm seeing things changing. It used to be annually. Now we're getting down to monthly. So, we're really kind of changing our business focus a little bit too, to be, we're paying attention to technology, obviously, in the sense that we need this technology to help drive whatever innovations we come up with. But we're really changing, to be more proactive with our dealer and our OEM base, so that, we can garner the information from them to see what they have, what they're experiencing, to modify our technology to better fit that. So, from a Red Oak and ThreeClix perspective, and, I hate to sound cliche, and it always does, but, we are really our customer focused right now. We understand that we can't be, all things to all people, yet we know absolutely what, we're good at, and that we need to get that information from our customers. So we don't pretend to say we're going to go ahead in a closed dark closet and develop this new, bell or whistle. We're talking with our customers all the time, and collectively coming up with new ideas.
Yeah, I always tell my clients, I say, together we can build something much better than we could if we went our separate ways and tried to build it apart. And that's great. Well, I can tell you from my experience working in ThreeClix that if you're looking for a CRM, if you need something to keep, if you feel like you have things falling through the cracks because you have sticky notes here and notepads there, or you're not happy with whatever CRM you may be using, ThreeClix does a wonderful job, and like you mentioned, it's simple, but it does everything that you need it to do. And I encourage people to check that out. Where else can they find information on you guys, and what else, anything that you want to offer the listeners that may be valuable to them?
Well, they can always find us at ThreeClix.com, and you can submit a request to see a demo. No obligation, and I don't hound you once you do the demo. I will call you once, and that's it, or one of my sales team members will. And then the Red Oak side is redoakgroup.com. I think there's some information on there that, dealers may find useful. My email is harry@threeclix.com, ThreeClix.com. I always welcome questions, comments, whether you're a customer or not. We're all in this together, so let's keep the communication rolling and build something fantastic.
Well, that sounds great, Harry. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you being so open with all your expertise and knowledge, and thank you for joining us here.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate being here.
Man, that was a great episode. If you don't have a CRM system, if you don't have anything to organize your leads, to get communication out via email, triggering phone calls to be made, reminders over the course of a year or more, a way to send out direct mail or a letter, or at least prompt you to do so, you're really missing out. And if you don't have that, you probably should look up Harry, go to ThreeClix.com and get yourself a demo and check it out. Or if you have a system that's so complicated that you just can't use it, you can't get your salespeople to use it because it's just too much, another reason to check them out. Now, I'll give you this challenge as well. If you have a CRM system and you're not using it to its fullest potential, you may want to check out the Splash system. You may want to check out, okay, we've got this great engine here of a CRM system. What we need, though, is we need the roadmap to get where we're going, and we need some rocket fuel to put in the gas tank so that we can get there as quickly as possible. And that's exactly what the Splash system is. And the 24/7 selling machine sits really well within the ThreeClix system. It's a nice program for the marine industry, and it's something that you definitely should check out. So if you want to check out more about how the Splash system may be able to put a little rocket fuel in your CRM system, you can certainly go to boatdealerprofits.com/success to take advantage of a free strategy session. Be happy to get on the phone with you, talk about the opportunities, the challenges that you have in your businesses and in your boat business, and see where there may be room for improvement, where you can pick up some market share, where you can pick up a few extra sales, where you can pick up some additional margin by using the right tools within your CRM system, the right messages within your 24/7 selling machine. All of that is very tightly integrated with a nice solid CRM. So there you go. I appreciate you joining us this week. I appreciate Harry just bringing some great knowledge and just being an open book with his insights. And we will see you on the next edition of the Boat Dealer Profits podcast. Take care.